Okay, the market I'm going to describe this morning is wide open. It is a global market. There is a lot of money to be made here. It's also quite needed these days. The United States population has changed over the last couple of decades. If you'll look at the blue line, that is the elderly population. You'll notice that is going way up, and it's going up quickly, while the younger population increases is pretty much flat. So what we have is a situation where there are going to be fewer and fewer taxpayers to support the elderly as we go toward the 2030 time frame. Right now we have about 5 working age adults, not working adults, but working age adults to every retiree. In the future, that's going to drop to about 3. As you probably have heard, the Social Security has gone into a deficit recently, and it's bound to get worse. So what we have is a situation where the elderly population is going to increase, whereas the money to pay for the elderly is going to go negative. Right now, it costs a significant amount of money to place an elderly person in a nursing facility or assisted living community. Seniors fear moving into a nursing home and the loss of independence more than death. Only 3% of seniors fear death more. I know my parents are very concerned about staying in the home and aging in place. Over half of the seniors are very concerned about this, and when asked about the issues they believe jeopardize their ability to remain in the home, they cited 3 primary concerns: health problems, memory problems, and the inability to get around. Now, seniors do fear moving into a nursing facility, but they don't want to be a burden on anyone. The boomer generation, our generation, they're a true sandwich generation. They have their parents that they have to take care of on one side, and then their children that they're trying to get to school, to ball practice, to the games. So they're really right in the middle of this. And then the United States healthcare system, just can't pay for this. Now, after a fall or other emergency, 90% of the people who get help right away are probably going to be able to return to the house. If they've laid on the floor for 12 hours or more, their chances of going home are 10% or less. Now, intelligent communication is the core of successful aging in place strategy. Now, there's active communications with assisted devices, cell phones, speaker phones, instant messaging, email at the senior's disposal that are easy to use, not intimidating, and designed for seniors. Now, you can also have passive communications, which means those same communication devices and optional sensors can work to detect anomalies that could possibly predict future problems and automatically transmit some kind of data to a centralized server. Now, one study has shown that changes in gait for the elderly can actually be predictive of whether they're going to have a life-threatening event in the short-term future. Also, changes in sleep patterns can be predictive of this as well. Now, according to my mother and some other seniors that I've spoken with, they want to keep their dignity. Now, loss of dignity, wheelchair, A walker, especially a walker. My mother refuses to use her walker. She's fallen 3 times. She broke her pelvis recently and fell down a second time a couple of weeks ago and bruised herself up pretty badly. Now the portable toilet, oh no, that's definitely a loss of dignity. And the emergency pendant. You know, we've seen the pendants, you know, I've fallen and I can't get up. The thing is, most seniors don't want to wear that pendant. I mean, it's like a badge of dishonor. You know, and they would rather not have it on, and they don't want to press it. Now, something that's okay to seniors, passive monitoring. If you have some kind of passive monitoring in the home, motion sensors, sensors when a drawer is opened, sensors on the oven, the refrigerator, the cabinets, stair lifts. Now, stair lifts are not intimidating to customers. You know, a lot of people buy a split-level house, multi-story house when they're younger and they have their children. They want to keep their house because, you know, Christmas, Thanksgiving, different times, the family comes home and they want to keep that house, and they have a problem going up and down the stairs, so they'll use a stair lift and the hover round. My mom has no problems with a hover round. I guess it's sort of like a go-kart. Everybody likes a go-kart. So you have a loss of dignity and aversion to showing weakness. Now, how can we keep seniors in the home longer? If we can keep a senior in the home just a couple of months, that could be a savings of tens of thousands of dollars, both for the caregiver, the children, and the government. And this can make a positive impact on our society and the taxpayer. What we need is some kind of system to monitor the senior in the home, to intelligently interpret the data that has been gathered, and then send an outbound alert, text message, email, phone call, when alert thresholds are met. Now, how do we do it? We put some magic smoke in the chipset, integrate it with household sensors, and tie it all into a central hub in the home, and then tie that thing back to a central server with communications capabilities. Something like this could be easily prototyped on just a lamp system. I wrote a prototype of this about 5-6 years ago. Now, what kind of sensors? You know, standard off-the-shelf sensors integrated to communicate to the centralized hub. Smoke, carbon monoxide, motion, temperature. Now, in Chicago, I'm sure every summer you hear something on CNN where it's become very, very hot in Chicago and elderly people start to pass away. They don't really have air conditioning in Chicago. So, you know, a change in temperature up or down can be very, very bad for a senior. Magnetic switches in drawers. Say a senior opens the cabinet, you know, gets a plate, opens the drawer, gets a fork, opens the refrigerator and gets a slice of key lime pie. Now, as long as that refrigerator door closes, everything's good to go. But if that refrigerator door closes and then there's no motion in the house for, say, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, you probably have a problem. Now, I've been speaking about this with my wife for many years, and she came up with, why don't you write some code to put a heart rate sensor on the senior's wrist, sort of like you see at the gym. People have, you know, they see what the respiration is. And I told my wife, there's no way that I'm going to write code that sends a message to a child that Granny just passed away. Web cameras, a pendant, which, you know, that pendant's, you know, a telephone, and, you know, wild cards, anything we can think of. Now, how would you connect something like this? You could use a Zigbee wireless network, Wi-Fi, power over Ethernet, where it would be hardwired into the house, X10, Bluetooth, low energy, low power DECT, or some other wild card that whatever you can think of, whatever's developed in the near future. So, okay, we have sensors. We have some kind of communications network. So how do you put them together? Base unit in the house could be something not so dissimilar to your little security firewall router device that you have for your internet connection. Small Asterisk or Linux appliance. Some kind of cable box. Now, a personal computer, that's probably not a very good idea. I know my parents' PC, the grandkids have virused that thing up, and every time I turn around, I'm fixing it. So a PC is probably not something that you'd want to put a device such as this on. Then tie that back to a centralized server. Everybody, pretty much these days, has at least a DSL connection. So you could tie this hub back to a centralized server that then could go ahead and have a web interface where the caregiver could go ahead and set up what kind of alerts they are looking for. They know their parents, they know the home better than anyone else. So you could maybe take some stock notifications and then modify them. And then have those outbound notifications on email, SMS, and outbound calls or whatever. So you have the web interface, you have some monitoring, and then you have alert thresholds. Now, if you took psychology back in college, you know that a neuron has two states. It either does not fire or it does fire. So what you have to do is you have to come up with what is that threshold to fire off that alert. How many tickles does it take until something happens? And then, of course, the notifications with text, email, outbound calls, and screen pops. We all see the pop-up ads on our web browser. You could have your PC at work. You could be tied into the central server. Something happens at your parents' house. You might get a pop-up message. And then that would prompt you to pick up the phone, call mom, call dad, see what's going on, and only then see if you need to leave work. So you have a system. You have a hub. How do we install it in the senior's home? Cable operators would be very happy to get into something like this as a add-on. Medical equipment suppliers, Asterisk integrators such as yourselves, alarm companies, some of your current channel partners, current distributors, and new customers. Of course, you have folks, probably a lot of folks in here could probably install something like this in the home themselves. Now, we've seen something like this before. I've fallen and I can't get up. The problem with this is you have to be conscious and physically able to press that pendant when something happens. About 80% of the time, the event that occurs is debilitating, and the senior cannot reach that pendant to press it, or they are unconscious and can't press it. So you need something that goes in there and intelligently determines if something has happened to mom or dad. The object of aging in place is to detect problems before they occur and then take care of the situation by summoning a caregiver or ambulance or fire and rescue. So you have a system where you can monitor your parents from any web-enabled device, from the office, from the home, or from your web-enabled car. Now, what about your event thresholds? You can set them yourself from a web browser. You can use the stock alert events or a pendant press, or you can come up with your own. Now, what does this do for us? It keeps our parents in the home longer. That's where they want to be. That's where you want them to be. Saves money. Gives you some peace of mind. It's not a panacea. You can't just put something like this in the house and then forget about Granny. But it does give you some kind of peace of mind. You know that there's something there that's going to sort of take a look at what's going on in the home and proactively give you alerts. And then you can receive the alerts on the go. You're not stuck with a landline phone. You can use your cell phone, your mobile device, whatever. So How would you tie something like this all together? Asterisks. You can use asterisks to send your outbound calls. You can use asterisks to send an SMS. And you can use asterisks to send an email. Now, the Oregon Health and Science University has a project they call ORCATECH. The United States government has given them millions of dollars, and they've actually created some devices and a system to put this together. Now, a university is very good at doing some research, but they're not known for actually producing a product. The University of Missouri, they have a system called Active Elders. They've also received millions of dollars in federal grants. Again, it's a study, it's sort of a prototype, but it's not a viable product. Now, for a device like this, there are no standards, no ANSI standard, no ISO, and no one's written an RFC. So it's like, it's wide open. It is that wide open. So what's next? Me, myself, and I'm open to exploring some kind of strategic alliance with someone else and draft some standards. If we all can be on the same page when we develop something like this, then we don't duplicate effort, and we can use and learn from each other in this open source environment. I'm on Facebook and Google+, or you can pop me an email at doug.kilgore@ymail.com. I'll be happy to speak with you. Questions? Yes, ma'am. You know, I'll be honest, I've never thought about chipping Mom. But you're right. Actually, it wouldn't.
It's a great idea. It's just you have to overcome the immediate opposition that I'm not a dog.
Yep.
It's a hard sell that has a fantastic idea behind it. So to me, the way you have to figure out, okay, how do we distance it from that? How do we make it seem plausible, reasonable, and absolutely the best possible thing to do?
Yeah, I've never thought about that, but you know, like you said, if you can just get over that resistance, that might pretty well make a lot of sense.
I'm a veterinarian, that's why I thought of that.
Yes, sir.
Just a couple of comments. I've done quite a few nursing homes, and we have some nursing homes with 400 bed facilities. And one of the things we've done for them is they want just a simple app where they not have to wear a necklace or anything, but they just want to knock the phone off the hook. So they knock the phone off the hook, and if the phone's off the hook for more than 30 seconds, it actually calls a ring group.
Mm-hmm.
And if you call that ring group until somebody comes up and hangs the phone up, hangs the phone up, puts the phone back on the hook. The other application we've seen is stuff that we've done. It's actually kind of scary. They're working with a third-party agency now that is trying to put pill dispensers in the residents' rooms so that the agency actually makes a call to the pill dispenser and dispenses pills to that particular residents on a daily basis.
Now, in that market, the nursing extended care facility market, Zorcom has a device that's, I don't know where it is right now, but I saw the demo last year. It's called Amity, where they're doing some monitoring in the facility and then sending that back to a central hub as well. So you might want to look at the Amity Zorcom product.
What kind of monitoring is it doing?
The Amity product? They have motion sensors. They have door sensors for the bathroom, I believe, temperature sensors. Actually, they're here in booth 1, I believe. I would suggest talking with Ruth Bridger or Bill Soto. Amity, Zorcom. And, you know, talk to Ruth or talk to Bill. They can definitely speak to it better than I can.
Doug,
Any other questions?
if you mock some
Yes, I have.
How difficult do you think it would be to generate the code base and the algorithms that make it semi-intelligent?
I don't know. I mean, if I were to sit down and start writing the algorithms to kick that off, it would, I don't know.
Because the rest of the tech is, all of the pieces of the puzzle are sitting around waiting for
Yes, they
somebody to put together.
Yes.
You know, the CPU that makes it work. And this tracks very closely to a project that Rich and I are already working on. So it's very interesting.
And a prototype, I don't think it would take too long, but you'd want to make sure that, okay, when you're looking at something like this, there's a difference between a device that monitors, and then there's that crossing that line into a medical device. You never want to cross that line into a medical device because then you start getting into HIPAA and other complications. So there are issues to think about here. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Have you ever looked at speech recognition, sort of less passive, where it's interactive with the elderly person?
I personally have not looked into voice recognition for the elderly, but I have noticed over the years, especially the last few years, how my mother's speech patterns have changed. So that would seem to follow along on the changes in gait or changes in sleep patterns. So I haven't thought about it, but that makes a lot of sense.
In Japan, they use a lot of, let's say, passive monitoring devices that they use their keycap to for what it needs to be every day and things like that, and how often. But again, it's very passive. And there's clear speech recognition that we did some discussions with that a lot of them really don't. We very actively talk to say the response to stress. There have been problems that we have more interactive.
I'll be bluntly honest, I'm an engineer with elderly parents. I'm concerned about them, but little things like that, I haven't thought about that. That's kind of why I'm reaching out. The more ideas are on something like this, the better. The more parameters that you can plug into your algorithms to proactively try to, is mom getting into trouble? Do I need to send her to physical therapy or speech therapy or get her walking or something? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I think that as the population gets older, that because of their adoption of technology now, that they'll become more likely to adopt this as the years go on?
Yes, I do. My father, he surfs the internet. Of course, he was an IT guy. Now, my mother, she doesn't even know how to turn a computer on. But I hate to say this, but as the older people pass and younger people become old, the technology acceptance by the elderly will increase. It's just an inevitable thing. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
As you say, one of the main issues is the lack of standard.
Yes.
Okay? What about things to reuse standard that already exist? Like, for example, monitoring. We are coming from IT world, so it's basically common to monitoring, for example, an IT infrastructure, as in the protocol, for example. Why don't you put this kind of protocol inside this kind of monitoring?
That makes sense. Like I said, that's part of the reason I'm up here speaking about this is I don't know it all, and input like what you've given, that makes a lot of sense, and I will definitely look at that. Any more questions? Well, I am in booth 26 at the Atlanta Asterisk User Group booth. The AAUG will be here today and all day tomorrow. Please come out by and visit us. We will have a Voice over IP conference on the Georgia Tech campus at the First Computing Building this April. We would love for you to join us. If you have a product or an idea that you would like to present, please contact the AAUG, and we'd love to see you in April. Thank you very much.